Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Captain Marvel, issue number 14, got that, and then this, and then it's a big thing, all right? It's a big thing. Listen, I'm practically speechless when it comes to this comic book, at least the introduction. I can't think of anything to actually say in the beginning. I'm standing here in the beginning like, nothing's coming to my head. So I'm just going to tell you that nothing came to my head. What I am going to tell you in this particular case is, holy crap. Let's just tell you who made this comic book and really get into all the good and the bad, which is actually good, in the book. Don't understand? Give me a minute. Okay, so this is The Last Avenger, Part 3. Kelly Thompson is the writer. Lee Garbey on art. I imagine it's Garbey, like sorbet. Tamara Bonvillain on color art. Tamara. Jeez, I'm butchering everything. VC's Clayton Cowles on letters. Mark Brooks on the cover. 2 variant covers, one by Alex Garner, another by Inhi Ukulele. Let's get to the freaking story now. So we've got Carol making mistakes. Lots of mistakes, and they're beautiful, juicy mistakes. It almost sounds like something you put on a grill, right? You got the mistakes? I'm done with that. Anyway, so check this out, man. She goes after Thor first. Why? Because he's the heavy hitter. Yeah, if Thor's aware of what's going on, I'm going to have a hard time taking him down. And Iron Man too, because he can outsmart me and out-tech me, but you know, if I'm quick, I might be able to take him down. Yeah. Here's the problem. That was a dumb move. But that's what Carol does. No. Let's just stop and be serious for a minute. Carol Danvers is the character who leads with her jaw. Can Carol Danvers actually take out the Immortal Hulk? No. If it's a straight up like death battle, Carol Danvers versus Thor, is she winning against Thor? Yeah, no. No, it's just not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever it was to fight him? Yeah, it sounds about accurate. And the only reason why she won is because she was able to trick him into thinking that it's not really her, right? And surprise him. Anyway, we read that comic book, all right? But she goes after the heavy hitters because she's thinking, that's who I got to take out first. Now, who should she have actually tried to take out first? 2 people. 1, Captain America. 2, Black Panther. Why? Because they're the ones who are actually going to outthink, not just out-science like Tony Stark would do. No, outthink, out-strategize the bad guys, in this particular case, Vox. Yeah, when you're talking about a supreme intelligence, okay, somebody who's got all these different minds wrapped up inside of them, and we're seeing that. We're seeing there's 2 voices for Vox right now. No, we're actually seeing something else, all right? What we're seeing is this being that has all these entities within it. And who's able to maybe counteract against all of these strategic thoughts and whatnot? Well, nobody out-strategizes Captain America, but if anybody came close to it, it would be Black Panther. No, seriously, I'm going to go on a limb here and say that all the unrealistic extra stuff that they do with Batman and the Justice League books and all that stuff and going up against Doomsday and stuff that lets be realistic, I don't care how tough a normal human is, he shouldn't be able to do that. It takes away from what Batman is if he's beating up or facing Darkseid. He died while fighting Darkseid. The fact is he lasted more than a second against Darkseid, all right? And we've seen this before too, and it doesn't make sense. But then he has a hard time taking out the freaking Riddler back in the streets of Gotham. I mean, like Calendar Man gives him a hard time. Like it's a little... It makes it hard to believe the Batman comic books if you're really buying into the Justice League, version of Batman. I'm just saying. But even with all that unrealism, Batman has still deferred to Captain America in the crossover book that they had. Captain America can out-strategize him. Just saying. That says something. DC doesn't give a whole lot to outside of their own. They just don't. They're very stingy with compliments. But for Batman to say, yeah, I'm going to leave this in you should lead this because you're the strategy thinker, yeah, that's a big deal. So Cap would have been able to figure out a problem by now. And if he did have any other technical questions, T'Challa would have figured it out. Right? I think that's pretty fair, pretty safe to say. Here's the guy who had contingency plans against Galactus and Mephisto. And he used them both. One was written by Al Ewing. The other one was written by Christopher Priest. And I really miss those days of T'Challa being written by Priest. I like big time, All that being said, I think that those should have been the main characters that she went after. But she didn't. Why? Because she only thinks with her jaw, with her heart. She doesn't always think with her brain. But that's one of the great things about this character, Captain Marvel. The people who write her best are the people who write her like this. Her heart's almost always in the right place. You know, sometimes she gets caught up with pride, Civil War too. But for the most part, her heart is in the right place. And she fights with it on her sleeve. Boom. Fight me, right? Those should have been the two people she went after first. And nothing described that more than her conversation with Tony and Thor, of all people, in Singularity herself. That was very telling. And I think that more than anything else should have been the big thing. And honestly, just all due respect, Kelly Thompson's awesome, but she's not a freaking golden god placed on top of a freaking mountain anywhere. She's not. You know what I'm saying? And I can point out what I believe are flaws in writer or artist or whatever also. One of the things that I don't trust Kelly Thompson to do is to write a good Captain America comic book, because just go and look at my Daredevil #2 review. I explain it there. So I get why that wouldn't be the case, why maybe Kelly didn't think that, or maybe she did. I don't know. I'm not actually in her head. I don't like to bother people, Twitter or otherwise. I'm like, hey, why did you such and such? No, I just don't like to do that. I will say, though, it was surprising to me that Danvers didn't think to bring in T'Challa and Steve. And I can't even say especially one over the other. No, like at the same time, they both should have been brought in on this, because that would have just been freaking perfect. And it probably would have figured out the problem right now. Leaving Carol to figure this stuff out on her own just shouldn't work. And one way that it could really work well is that they focus on her pride. You see, all of us soldiers have a certain level of pride. All of us. There are no soldiers who, in my experience, there are 0 soldiers who do not have some tinge of pride, no matter how much we try and squash it. When you bring up the idea of, hey, is this the best way to go about this? Right away. Okay, when I was in the military, let me draw from my military experience, like that's what usually comes out of us, because we've seen something like this before. We've seen good plans and bad plans, both of them either succeed somehow or fall apart, obviously. You know what I'm saying? We've seen so much of this. So, like, I want to be able to say that the reason why Carol didn't think to bring Steve in immediately is, what? He was in the military, I'm in the military. What's the big deal? I can honestly see her thinking something like that, saying something like that out loud, and not realizing, super soldier, really powerful half-Kree person, you know, Psyche Magnetron and all that stuff. Steve isn't just awesome, and this is one of the problems, that whenever somebody writes a Captain America that isn't great, it's because they don't understand these two aspects about him, which are actually the same. It's not just his physical abilities that have been brought up to being super awesome. No. He's also peak human in his brain function as well. He is literally a genius. He just doesn't study the sciences. So he'll understand, so his ability to comprehend anything is evident in the idea that, and he's got a great poker face, in the idea that he could just simply, you know, boom, okay, I may not understand, you know, quantum tunneling and whatnot, but I get the idea that this guy's going to teleport and do such and such. Like, you know, he'll get those things. He'll get those things. Even if he can't necessarily recreate it in a lab, he'll understand it. That's one of the big things that writers often forget about with Steve. And it's also something that Carol could forget about with Steve. What's the other thing about Captain America really quick? It's the idea that his superpower isn't his shield. It's not that he jumps around a lot and punches people. No. It's the idea that he always finds a way to win. It doesn't matter if he's outmanned, outclassed, outpowered. He's going to find a way to win because he thinks faster than you. Stark is smarter than him. He's more educated than him. But Tony Stark simply doesn't think as quick as Steve Rogers does. That's just, it's one of the main qualities of who he is. T'Challa, I think I already mentioned, he's the guy who can turn Galactus golden and make him give birth to planets, you know what I'm saying? He's the guy who can go up against Mephisto because he's got people on that. God, I miss the priest days of writing Black Panther. And he could take a sucker out. Mephisto, You ever been bitch slapped before? Welcome to T'Challa world. Welcome to Wakanda. Forever. Like, dude, it's one of the things I love about these two characters. When somebody gets these characters so well, and they write them so well. I don't know if it's a fault in I don't know, maybe, like, I'm just going to say it because whatever. In Kelly not getting the idea that these two characters would have fixed things, or to me, more likely, because that's how you just end a story, right? That's how you end a story. You bring Cap and T'Challa in it. They both start thinking the big brains, and all of a sudden, hey, I figured this out. And then the story's pretty much over. This is how you defeat the bad guy, right? You got to kind of make a story actually a story instead of a solution. That's a big difference. But I wonder if, honestly, it's just the idea that Carol does have a head full of pride. She is going to think to herself, what? He was in the military, I'm in the military. Psh, we're good. You know what I'm saying? I got this. What's Cap going to bring to this conversation? What's he going to table that's going to make me say, oh, I was wrong? I could see something like that. But the excuse with T'Challa doesn't make a lot of sense to me. She should have known that, like, Carol should have known that T'Challa was going to be on her the entire time. This is a really awesome comic book. I dug it. Great storytelling in here. I honestly just hope that we're able to come to something where Carol says, and honestly, I'm going to, like I said honestly, so I mean it honestly. It's probably just because I'm a huge T'Challa and especially Captain America mark. Just saying. You know what I'm saying? Two of the best freaking characters out there. These are the underdogs that always wind up standing tall and waving their own respective flags, right? But this is one of the things I love about these characters. So, yeah, when I see them done in a way that I don't like, I usually I'm going to push back a little bit, all right? But I do recognize this is a part of the story. But to really make this, in my opinion, a great story, point out how, or have when Cap and T'Challa actually get brought in, because eventually they got to both be brought in, right? That's when all of a sudden you come to the conclusion, okay, this is how we can solve this. You know, hey, Cap reads all the dossiers on everybody. If anybody's going to know what's going on besides the Fantastic Four, is going to know what happened to the Inhumans and the whole Vox character, it's got to be Cap. More than anybody else. Maybe sans T'Challa. But anyway, it's a good story. Any story that gets you talking like this, you know what I'm saying? Any story that gets you thinking like this, dude. This is what I'm talking. I'm going to stop hitting my legs. That's probably annoying to the camera. Anyway, that's what I'm talking about. That's a fantastic story where you just get into it and it's like, okay, I could just talk about this happened and this happened and this happened. Or I could talk about, but look at all these other things that relate to the story. And it's like, wow. And you really get into it. That's when you know you got amazing storytelling right there, right? When you start drawing in from life experiences and whatnot. That's a thing. If this isn't a book that gets people talking, I don't know what to say. And you know what they do say, though? Any press is good press. No, there's no such thing as bad press, right? This is a freaking awesome story. I'm interested in seeing what happens next because it's action, right? And if she's able to bring both of these two people in, cool, might need a lawyerly perspective, but that T'Challa thing, that's going to be potentially game-changing. I want to see what's going to happen with Cap. Anyway, guys, I'm done. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.